The most excellent order of the British Empire is a British Order of Chivalry, rewarding valuable service in a wide range of useful activities. It comprises 5 classes of awards across both civil and military divisions, the most senior 2 of which make the recipient either a knight if male or a dame if female. There is also the related British Empire Medal, whose recipients are affiliated with the order, but are not members of it. The order was established on June 4, 1917 by King George V, who created the order to recognize such persons, male or female, as may have rendered or shall hereafter render important services to our empire. Equal recognition was to be given for services rendered in the UK and overseas. Today, the majority of recipients are UK citizens, though a number of Commonwealth realms outside the UK continue to make appointments to the order. Honorary awards may be made to citizens of other nations of which the order's sovereign is not the head of state. Current classes. The 5 classes of appointment to the order are, from highest grade to lowest grade. Knight Grand Cross or Dame Grand Cross of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, GBE. Knight Commander or Dame Commander of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, KBE or DBE. Commander of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, CBE. Officer of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, OBE. Member of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, MBE. The senior 2 ranks of Knight or Dame Grand Cross and Knight or Dame Commander entitle their members to use the titles Sir for men and Dame for women before their forenames, except with honorary awards. King George V founded the order to fill gaps in the British honours system. The orders of the Garter, the Thistle, and St. Patrick honoured royals, peers, statesmen and eminent military commanders. The Order of the Bath honoured senior military officers and civil servants. The Order of St. Michael and St. George honoured diplomats and colonial officials. The Order of the Star of India and the Order of the Indian Empire honoured Indian rulers and British and Indian officials of the British Indian Empire, and the Royal Victorian Order, in the personal gift of the monarch, honoured those who had personally served the royal family. In particular, George V wished to create an order to honour the many thousands of individuals from across the empire who had served in a variety of non-combat roles during the First World War. From its foundation the order consisted of 5 classes, GBE, KBE/DBE, CBE, OBE, and MBE, and was open to both women and men. Provision was also made for conferring honorary awards on foreign recipients. At the same time, alongside the order, the Medal of the Order of the British Empire was instituted, to serve as a lower award granting recipients affiliation but not membership. The first investiture took place at Ibrox Stadium, as part of a royal visit to the Glasgow shipyards, with the appointment of Alexander Ure, 1st Baron Strathclyde as a GBE, in recognition of his role as chairman of the Scottish War Savings Committee, and the award of Medal of the Order to Lizzie Robinson, a munitions worker. The order had been established primarily as a civilian award, in August 1918, however, not long after its foundation, a number of awards were made to serving naval and military personnel. 4 months later, a military division was added to the order, to which serving personnel would in future be appointed. The classes were the same as for the civil division, as it was now termed, but military awards were distinguished by the addition of a central vertical red stripe to the purple riband of the civil awards. In 1920 appointment as an MBE for an act of gallantry was granted for the first time, to Sidney Frank Blank Esq, who had rescued an injured man from a burning building containing explosives. In December 1922 the statutes of the order were amended, there having been a large number of awards for war work prior to this date. These amended statutes placed the order on more of a peacetime footing. For the first time numbers of appointments were limited, with the stipulation that senior awards in the civil division were to outnumber those in the military division by a proportion of 6-1. Furthermore, appointments in the civil division were to be divided equally between UK and overseas awards. With regard to the Medal of the Order, but not the order itself, a distinction was made in 1922 between awards for gallantry and awards for meritorious service, each being appropriately inscribed, and the former having laurel leaves decorating the clasp, the latter oak leaves. In 1933 holders of the Medal for Gallantry, which had come to be known as the Empire Gallantry Medal, were given permission to use the post-nominal letters EGM, and at the same time to add a laurel branch emblem to the ribbon of the medal. However, in 1940, awards of the EGM ceased and all holders of the medal were instructed to exchange it for a new and more prestigious gallantry award, the George Cross. In 1941, the Medal of the Order for Meritorious Service was renamed the British Empire Medal, and the following year its recipients were granted the right to use the post-nominal letters BAME. During the war, the BAME came to be used to recognize acts of bravery which did not merit the award of a George Cross or George Medal, a use which continued until the introduction of the Queen's Gallantry Medal in 1974. The designs of insignia of the Order and Medal were altered in 1937, prior to the coronation of King George VI, in commemoration of the reign of King George V and Queen Mary, during which the Order was founded. The figure of Britannia at the center of the badge of the Order was replaced with an image of the crowned heads of the late King and Queen Mary, and the words instituted by King George V were added to the reverse of the medal. The color of the riband was also changed. 20 years earlier, prior to the Order's establishment, Queen Mary had made it known that pink would be her preferred color for the riband of the proposed new order, but, in the event, purple was chosen. Following her appointment as Grand Master of the Order in 1936, a change was duly made, and since March 9, 1937 the riband of the Order has been rose pink edged with pearl gray, with the addition of a vertical pearl gray stripe in the center for awards in the military division. From time to time the Order was expanded. There was an increase in the maximum permitted number of recipients in 1933, and a further increase in 1937. During the Second World War, as had been the case during and after World War I, the number of military awards was greatly increased. Between 1939 and 1946 there were more than 33,000 appointments to the military division of the Order from the UK and across the Empire. Recommendations for all appointments to the Order of the British Empire were originally made on the nomination of the King's United Kingdom ministers. Recommendations for overseas awards were made by the Foreign Office, the Colonial Office, the India Office and the Dominions Office, but in the early 1940s the system was changed to enable the governments of overseas dominions to make their own nominations. Canada and South Africa began doing so in 1942, followed by Australia, New Zealand and other Commonwealth realms. In May 1957, 40 years after the foundation of the Order, it was announced that St. Paul's Cathedral was to serve as the Church of the Order, and in 1960 a chapel was dedicated for its use within the crypt of the cathedral. That year, Commonwealth awards made up 40% of all OBEs and MBEs awarded, and 35% of all living recipients of the higher awards. Gradually that proportion reduced as independent states within the Commonwealth established their own systems of honours. The last Canadian recommendation for the Order of the British Empire was an MBE for gallantry gazetted in 1966, a year before the creation of the Order of Canada. On the other hand, the Australian honours system unilaterally created in 1975 did not achieve bipartisan support until 1992, which was when Australian federal and state governments agreed to cease Australian recommendations for British honours. The last Australian recommended Order of the British Empire appointments were in the 1989 Queen's Birthday Honours. New Zealand continued to use the Order alongside its own honours until the establishment of the New Zealand Order of Merit in 1996. Other Commonwealth realms have continued to use the Order of the British Empire alongside their own honours. In 1993 the Prime Minister, John Major, instituted a reform of the honours system with the aim that exceptional service or achievement will be more widely recognised, that greater importance will be given to voluntary service, that automatic honours will end, that the distinction between ranks in military operational gallantry awards will cease. The reforms affected the Order at various levels. For example, the automatic award each year of a GBE to the Lord Mayor of London ceased. The OBE replaced the Imperial Service Order as an award for civil servants, and the number of MBEs awarded each year was significantly increased. As part of these reforms, the British Empire Medal stopped being awarded by the United Kingdom. Those who would formerly have met the criteria for the medal were instead made eligible for the MBE. In 2004, a report entitled A Matter of Honor, Reforming Our Honours System by a Common Select Committee recommended phasing out the Order of the British Empire, as its title was now considered to be unacceptable, being thought to embody values that are no longer shared by many of the country's population. The committee further suggested changing the name of the award to the Order of British Excellence, and changing the rank of commander to companion, as the former was said to have a militaristic ring, as well as advocating for the abolition of knighthoods and damehoods. The government, however, was not of the opinion that a case for change had been made, and the aforementioned suggestions and recommendations were not, therefore, pursued. In the 21st century, quotas were introduced to ensure consistent representation among recipients across 9 categories of eligibility: arts and media, community, voluntary and local, economy, education, health, parliamentary and political, science and technology, sport, state, with the largest proportion of awards being reserved for community, voluntary and local service. Non-military awards of the British Empire Medal resumed in 2012, starting with 293 BAMEs awarded for Queen Elizabeth II's Diamond Jubilee. In 2017, the centenary of the order was celebrated with a service at St. Paul's Cathedral. Composition: the order is limited to 300 Knights and Dames Grand Cross, 845 Knights and Dames Commander, and 8,960 Commanders. There are no limits applied to the total number of members of the 4th and 5th classes, but no more than 858 officers and 1,464 members may be appointed per year. Foreign appointees, as honorary members, do not contribute to the numbers restricted to the order as full members do. Although the Order of the British Empire has by far the highest number of members of the British Orders of Chivalry, with more than 100,000 living members worldwide, there are fewer appointments to knighthoods than in other orders. From time to time, individuals may be promoted to a higher grade within the order, thereby ceasing usage of the junior post-nominal letters. Sovereign and Grand Master. The British Sovereign is the sovereign of the order and appoints all other officers of the order, by convention, on the advice of the governments of the United Kingdom and some Commonwealth realms. The second most senior officer is the Grand Master, a prince of the blood royal, or other exalted personage appointed by the sovereign, who, by virtue of their appointment, becomes the first or principal Knight Grand Cross of the same order. The position of Grand Master has been held by the following people. Officers. In addition to the sovereign and the Grand Master, the order has 6 further officers. Prelate, Bishop of London, the RT Hon. and RT Rev. Dame Sarah Mullally DBE. Dean, Dean of St. Paul's, ex officio, the Very Rev. Andrew Tremlett. Secretary, Secretary of the Central Chancery of the Orders of Knighthood, Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Segrave. Registrar, Secretary of the Cabinet and Head of the Home Civil Service, Sir Chris Wormold KCB. King of Arms, Lieutenant General Sir Simon Mayall KBECB. Lady Usher of the Purple Rod, Dame Amelia Fawcett DBECVO. At its foundation the order was served by 3 officers, the King of Arms, the Registrar and Secretary and the Gentleman Usher of the Purple Rod. In 1922 the Prelate was added, and the office of Registrar was separated from that of Secretary. The former was to be responsible for recording all proceedings connected with the order, issuing warrants under the seal of the order and making arrangements for investitures, while the latter, at that time the permanent secretary to the Treasury, was responsible for collecting and tabulating the names of those who were to receive an award. The office of Dean was added in 1957. The King of Arms is not a member of the College of Arms, as are many other heraldic officers, and the Lady Usher of the Purple Rod does not, unlike the Order of the Garter equivalent, the Lady Usher of the Black Rod, perform any duties related to the House of Lords. Commonwealth Awards. Since the Second World War, several Commonwealth realms have established their own national system of honors and awards and have created their own unique orders, decorations, and medals. A number, though, continue to make recommendations for appointments to the Order of the British Empire. In 2024, appointments to the order were made by the governments of Antigua and Barbuda, the Bahamas, Belize, Cook Islands, Grenada, Papua New Guinea, St. Christopher and Nevis, St. Lucia, Solomon Islands. Most members of the order are citizens of the United Kingdom or other Commonwealth realms that use the UK system of honours and awards. In addition, honorary awards may be made to citizens of nations where the monarch is not head of state. These permit use of post-nominal letters, but not the title of Sir or Dame. Honorary appointees who later become a citizen of a Commonwealth realm can convert their appointment from honorary to substantive, and they then enjoy all privileges of membership of the order, including use of the title of Sir and Dame for the senior two ranks of the order. An example of the latter is Irish broadcaster Terry Wagon, who was appointed an honorary Knight Commander of the Order in 2005, and on successful application for British citizenship, held alongside his Irish citizenship, was made a substantive member and subsequently styled as Sir Terry Wagon. Gallantry Awards. Although initially intended to recognize meritorious service, the order began to also be awarded for gallantry. There were an increased number of cases in the Second World War for service personnel and civilians, including the Merchant Navy, police, emergency services, and civil defense, mostly MBEs but with a small number of OBEs and CBEs. Such awards were for gallantry that did not reach the standard of the George Medal, even though, as appointments to an Order of Chivalry, they were listed before it on the Order of Wear. In contrast to awards for meritorious service, which usually appear without a citation, there were often citations for gallantry awards, some detailed and graphic. From January 14, 1958, these awards were designated Commander, Officer, or Member of the Order of the British Empire for gallantry. Any individual made a member of the Order for Gallantry after January 14, 1958 wears an emblem of two crossed silver oak leaves on the same ribbon as the badge, with a miniature version on the ribbon bar when worn alone. When the ribbon only is worn, the emblem is worn in miniature. It could not be awarded posthumously, and was replaced in 1974 with the Queen's Gallantry Medal, QGM. If recipients of the Order of the British Empire for gallantry received promotion within the order, whether for gallantry or otherwise, they continued to wear also the insignia of the lower grade with the oak leaves. However, they used only the post-nominal letters of the higher grade. When the order was founded in 1917, badges, ribbons and stars were appointed for wear by recipients. In 1929, mantles, hats and collars were added for recipients of the highest class of the order, GBE. The designs of all these items underwent major changes in 1937. The badges worn by all members of the order, the size, color, and design depends on the class of award. The badge for all classes is in the form of a cross patence, having the arms growing broader and floriated toward the end, with a medallion in the center, the obverse of which bears a crowned image of George V and Queen Mary within a circlet bearing the motto of the order. The reverse bears George V's royal and imperial cipher. Prior to 1937, Britannia was shown within the circlet. The size of the badges varies according to rank. The higher classes have slightly larger badges. The badges of Knights and Dames Grand Cross, Knights and Dames Commander, and Commanders are enameled, with pale blue crosses, crimson circlets and a gold central medallion. Officers' badges are plain silver gilt, while those of members are plain silver. From 1917 until 1937, the badge of the order was suspended on a purple ribbon, with a red central stripe being added for the military division in 1918. Since 1937, the ribbon has been rose pink with pearl gray edges, with the addition of a pearl gray central stripe for the military division. Knights and Dames Grand Cross wear it on a broad ribboned or sash, passing from the right shoulder to the left hip. Knights commander and male commanders wear the badge from a ribbon around the neck, male officers and members wear the badge from a ribbon on the left chest, female recipients other than Dame's Grand Cross, unless in military uniform, normally wear it from a bow on the left shoulder. An oval 8-pointed star is worn, pinned to the left breast, by Knights and Dames Grand Cross. Knights and Dames Commander wear a smaller star composed of 4 equal points and 4 lesser. The star is not worn by the more junior classes. Prior to 1937, each star had in the center a gold medallion with a figure of Britannia, surrounded by a crimson circlet inscribed with the motto of the order, "For God and the Empire." Since 1937, the effigies of King George V and Queen Mary have been shown within the circlet. Mantles and collars. In 1929, to bring the order into line with the other orders of chivalry, members of the first class of the order, GBE, were provided with mantles, hats and collars. The mantle is a cloak-like garment of rose-pink satin lined with pearl gray silk. Prior to 1937 it was of purple satin. On the left side is a representation of the Star of the Order, as pictured below. Initially a purple-plumed hat was also provided to be worn with the mantle. In 1937 the color of the hat was changed to black. The collar is made of gold. It consists of 6 medallions depicting the royal arms, alternating with 6 medallions depicting the royal and imperial cipher of George V, GRI, which stands for Georgius Rex Imperator. The medallions are linked with gold cables depicting sea lions and crowns. When collars are worn, the badge is suspended from the collar. Only Knights/Dames Grand Cross wear these elaborate vestments. The hat is now rarely, if ever, worn. Use of the mantle is limited to important occasions, such as quadrennial services and coronations. The mantle is always worn with the collar. Although the mantle was introduced in 1929, very few mantles would have been produced prior to the 1937 design changes, as there were few occasions for wearing them in the intervening years. On certain days designated by the sovereign, known as collar days, members attending formal events may wear the order's collar over their military uniform, formal day dress, evening wear or robes of office. Collars are returned upon the death of their owners, but other insignia may be retained. The 6 office holders of the order wear pearl gray silk mantles lined with rose-pink satin, having on the right side a purple shield charged with the roundel from the badge. Each of these office holders wears a unique badge of office, suspended from a gold chain worn around the neck. The British Empire medal is made of silver. On the obverse is an image of Britannia surrounded by the motto, with the words "For meritorious service" at the bottom. On the reverse is George V's imperial and royal cipher, with the words "Instituted by King George V" at the bottom. The name of the recipient is engraved on the rim. It comes in both full-sized and miniature versions, the latter for formal white tie and semi-formal black tie occasions. A lapel pin for everyday wear was first announced at the end of December 2006, and is available to recipients of all levels of the order, as well as to holders of the British Empire Medal. The pin design is not unique to any level. The pin features the badge of the order, enclosed in a circle of ribbon of its colors of pink and gray. Lapel pins must be purchased separately by a member of the order. The creation of such a pin was recommended in Sir Hayden Phillips' review of the honours system in 2004. The chapel of the Order of the British Empire is in St. Paul's Cathedral. It occupies the far eastern end of the cathedral crypt and was dedicated in 1960. The only heraldic banners normally on display in the chapel are those of the Sovereign of the Order of the British Empire and of the Grand Master of the Order of the British Empire. Rather than using this chapel, the Order now holds its great services upstairs in the nave of the cathedral. In addition to the chapel of the Order of the British Empire, St. Paul's Cathedral also houses the chapel of the Order of St. Michael and St. George. Religious services for the whole order are held every 4 years. New Knights and Dames Grand Cross are installed at these services. Precedence and privileges. Knights Grand Cross and Knights Commander prefix Sir, and Dames Grand Cross and Dames Commander prefix Dame, to their forenames. Wives of knights may prefix lady to their surnames, but no equivalent privilege exists for husbands of knights or spouses of dames. Such forms are not used by peers and princes, except when the names of the former are written out in their fullest forms. Male clergy of the Church of England or the Church of Scotland do not use the title Sir, unless they were knighted before being ordained. As they do not receive the accolade, they are not dubbed knight with a sword, although they do append the post-nominal letters. Dames do not receive the accolade, and therefore female clergy are free to use the title dame. Knights and Dames Grand Cross use the post-nominal GBE, Knights Commander, KBE, Dames Commander, DBE, Commanders, CBE, Officers, OBE, and Members, MBE. The post-nominal for the British Empire medal is BAME. Members of all classes of the order are assigned positions in the order of precedence. Wives of male members of all classes also feature on the order of precedence, as do sons, daughters, and daughters-in-law of Knights Grand Cross and Knights Commander. Relatives of ladies of the order, however, are not assigned any special precedence. As a general rule, only wives and children of male recipients are afforded privileges. Knights and Dames Grand Cross are also entitled to be granted heraldic supporters. They may, furthermore, encircle their arms with a depiction of the circlet, a circle bearing the motto, and the collar. The former is shown either outside or on top of the latter. Knights and Dames Commander and Commanders may display the circlet, but not the collar, surrounding their arms. The badge is depicted suspended from the collar or circlet. Only the monarch can annul an honor, based on recommendations from the Honors Forfeiture Committee, which considers cases such as criminal convictions or actions that bring the honors system into disrepute. An individual can symbolically renounce their honor by returning the insignia to Buckingham Palace and ceasing to reference their title. However, the honor remains officially held unless formally annulled by the monarch. For instance, John Lennon returned his MBE insignia in 1969 as a form of protest, but the honor was not formally annulled and remained officially in place. People who declined Order of the British Empire honors. In 2003, the Sunday Times published a list of the people who had rejected the Order of the British Empire, including David Bowie, John Cleese, Nigella Lawson, Elgar Howarth, L.S. Lowry, George Melly, and J.G. Ballard. In addition, Ballard voiced his opposition to the honors system, calling it a preposterous charade. The order has attracted some criticism for its naming having a connection with the idea of the now extinct British Empire. Benjamin Zephaniah, a British poet of Jamaican and Barbadian descent, publicly rejected appointment as an officer in 2003 because, he asserted, it reminded him of thousands of years of brutality. He also said that it reminds me of how my foremothers were raped and my forefathers brutalized. The author, C.S. Lewis, 1898–1963, was named on the last list of honors by George VI in December 1951. Despite being a monarchist, he declined to avoid association with any political issues. In 2019, comedian John Oliver turned down an offer of appointment as an OBE, which would have been part of the Queen's New Year's honors list. The Beatles were appointed members in 1965. John Lennon justified his investiture by comparing military membership in the order. Lots of people who complained about us receiving the MBE status received theirs for heroism in the war, for killing people. We received ours for entertaining other people. I'd say we deserve ours more. Lennon later returned his MBE insignia on November 25, 1969, as part of his ongoing peace protests. Other criticism centers on the view that many recipients of the order are being rewarded with honors for simply doing their jobs. Critics say that the civil service and judiciary receive far more orders and honors than leaders of other professions. Chin Peng, a veteran guerrilla fighter of the Malayan People's anti-Japanese army, was appointed as an officer for his role in fighting against the Japanese occupation of Malaya during World War II, in close cooperation with the British Commando Force 136. Several years after the war, his OBE membership was withdrawn by the British government, and became undesirable to Chin Peng himself, when the communist leader headed his party's guerrilla insurgency against the British Empire during the Malayan Emergency. Thank you for watching this video.